When my daughter Olivia married a millionaire, I thought it was the happiest day of her life. She looked stunning in her designer gown, her smile brighter than the chandeliers above her. I stood in the corner of that grand ballroom, holding a small bouquet I bought from the local store, feeling both proud and strangely invisible. In the months that followed, her calls became shorter, then less frequent, and finally, they stopped altogether. Whenever I tried reaching out, her assistant would answer, "Mrs. Carter is very busy right now," they'd say, as if my own daughter was some distant celebrity I had no right to know. One day, I left her a voicemail. I told her I missed her laugh, her stories, the way she used to braid my hair when we watched TV together. She never called back. People in town whispered that I must be so proud of her, living that glamorous life. But pride has a strange way of feeling hollow when love goes quiet. Then, one rainy evening, years later, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, I saw her, standing there in the storm, her makeup running, her eyes red from crying. "Mom," she whispered, "can I come in?" And in that moment, I knew life was about to remind both of us what really matters. I hadn't seen Olivia in nearly 3 years. In that time, I'd grown used to quiet dinners and long walks through the neighborhood park, the kind where you nod to the same faces every morning but never stop to talk. My life had shrunk into something small but peaceful until that night she appeared on my doorstep. When I let her in, she hesitated before stepping over the threshold, as if she didn't belong anymore. Her once polished hands were trembling, clutching a designer purse that looked far too expensive for the fear in her eyes. "Sit down, sweetheart," I said softly, trying to steady my own heart. She perched on the edge of the couch, the same couch she used to curl up on as a teenager, complaining about school, love, and dreams. Now she looked like a stranger wearing my daughter's face. For a long moment, she said nothing, just stared at her wedding ring, twisting it over and over. Finally, she whispered, "Mom," everything fell apart. I waited, no judgment, no rush. When she finally met my eyes, her voice cracked. "Nathan left me. He said I was too dependent. I thought we had everything, but I didn't realize how much of it was built on his name, not mine." My heart broke for her, but a quiet part of me remembered every unanswered call, every missed birthday, every message left unread. I swallowed the pain. "You'll be okay," I told her gently. "You always find your way." Tears filled her eyes. "I was awful to you, Mom. I thought money meant success, but it just made me forget who I was, who we were." I placed my hand over hers, old and wrinkled against her manicured fingers. "You're here now," I said. "That's what matters." Outside, the storm kept raging, but inside, the silence between us began to thaw. It wasn't forgiveness yet, just the fragile beginning of it. And for the first time in years, my house didn't feel empty anymore. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains, soft and warm. Olivia sat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee from the same chip mug she used as a child. For a moment, it almost felt like old times, until her phone buzzed. She flinched when she saw the caller ID, Nathan's lawyer. Her hands trembled as she answered. I watched as her face went pale, the life draining from her eyes. When she hung up, her voice was barely a whisper. "He's freezing all our accounts. I don't even have access to my own savings." I poured her another cup of coffee and sat across from her. "You can stay here," I said, "for as long as you need." She shook her head weakly. "No, Mom, you don't understand. He's taking everything. The apartment, the car, the business investments, everything's in his name." I stayed quiet. I could see the panic rising in her, the fear of losing a world built on appearances. "Then you'll start again," I said gently. "You did it once before." Tears welled in her eyes. "You make it sound so easy." "It's not," I said, "but it's possible." For a while, we sat in silence, the air thick with memories. Then she asked the question I'd been expecting. "How did you do it, Mom? After Dad died, how did you rebuild?" I smiled faintly, by remembering who I was before everything fell apart. She nodded slowly, as if she wanted to believe that strength could be inherited like a keepsake. But I knew she'd have to earn it herself. When she finally looked up again, her voice was small. Mom, I need your help. Those 5 words, the ones I never thought I'd hear again, were enough to remind me that sometimes life finds a way to circle back, not to repeat the past, but to heal it. For the next few days, Olivia tried to piece her life back together. I watched her make endless phone calls, her tone polite but desperate. Each one ended the same way, with a sigh, a trembling lip, and the quiet defeat that comes when doors keep closing. Her friends stopped answering. The business partners who once praised her now avoided her name like it was cursed. One evening, she sat by the window scrolling through her phone, her eyes glassy. Mom, she said softly, they're saying Nathan was never a millionaire. The companies he invested in, they are all fake. I didn't respond. I had suspected it from the start. There had been something too perfect about the way he presented himself. The smooth smile, the expensive suits, the promises that sounded rehearsed. But Olivia hadn't wanted to see it. Love, when it's mixed with ambition, can blind even the brightest minds. She turned toward me, voice breaking. I should have listened to you. I thought marrying him would make everything better. I wanted stability. I didn't want to struggle like you did. I set down my knitting and met her eyes. You thought money would keep you safe. But the truth is, the moment you depend on someone else for your worth, you hand them your power. Olivia buried her face in her hands. I was so stupid. No, I said softly, just human. As the days passed, she began helping me around the house, cooking, cleaning, even fixing the old garden fence. At first, she worked in silence, as if ashamed. But slowly, I saw her shoulders relax, her laughter return, the real Olivia re-emerging beneath the cracks. One morning, I found her sorting through a box of her father's old letters. She smiled through tears. He used to tell me that everything worth having comes after the fall. I nodded. He was right. That afternoon, we went to the local cafe, the same one I used to take her to as a girl. The owner greeted me by name, and Olivia looked surprised. You still come here? Every Sunday, I said. This place reminds me that even when the world changes, some things stay. We sat quietly for a while before Olivia asked, Mom, what if I never get back what I lost? I smiled gently. Maybe what you lost wasn't meant to stay. Maybe this time you'll build something stronger, something that's yours. She stared at me, her eyes full of both pain and understanding. For the first time since she'd come back, she didn't look like the daughter who'd left me behind. She looked like a woman who was learning to stand again. But I also knew the storm wasn't over, because later that night, Olivia received another call, this time from the bank. Nathan had drained the last joint account and disappeared overseas. The realization shattered what little calm she had rebuilt. I held her as she cried, whispering the same words I once told myself years ago, you are not what they take from you. What she didn't know was that while Nathan thought he had stolen everything, there were still pieces of the story left in her name, pieces I had quietly kept safe all along. The next morning, Olivia stormed into my kitchen, her eyes red but fierce. Mom, she said, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and anger. I found him. Nathan's in Miami. He's trying to sell what's left of the company, the one I funded with my savings. I set down my teacup. Then it's time you remind him who he underestimated. She blinked. What do you mean? I opened the drawer and pulled out a thin folder I'd kept hidden for years. A stack of signed contracts, investment records, and one particular deed Nathan had never known existed. Before you married him, I invested in his startup under my name, quietly. When he merged everything into your joint venture, he forgot that the original assets still traced back to me. Olivia's eyes widened. So legally? Legally, I said, sliding the folder toward her. He's not the only one with ownership rights. By noon, we were sitting in a sleek downtown law office. Olivia looked terrified, but I could see the spark of determination returning. Her lawyer scanned the documents, eyebrows rising with every page. Mrs. Carter, he said finally, This gives you majority leverage. If Nathan tries to liquidate assets without your consent, he could be charged with fraud. Olivia exhaled shakily. I can't believe this. I smiled softly. You believed in him once. Now believe in yourself. That afternoon, we called Nathan. His voice came through the speaker, smooth and cocky as ever. Olivia, I was going to explain everything. You're overreacting. She clenched her jaw. You stole from me. I didn't steal, he snapped. I moved the funds for our future. You never understood business. I cut in. But I do, Nathan. There was a pause. Mrs. Carter. Yes, I said evenly. And as of this morning, I've frozen all transactions linked to the original account. You might want to call your lawyer before you try selling what doesn't belong to you. The silence that followed was delicious. Then came his sputtered response, his voice cracking as he realized the tables had turned. You can't do that. Oh, I already did, I said calmly. You see, Nathan, you taught my daughter to confuse love with control. But you forgot. She learned strength from me. He hung up, and Olivia stared at me, half shocked, half in awe. Mom, you just destroyed him. No, I said gently. He destroyed himself. I just showed him the mirror. Within 48 hours, Nathan's accounts were under investigation. The news spread through his social circle faster than wildfire. The so-called millionaire was exposed as a fraud, and his empire crumbled overnight. The day he finally showed up at our door, Olivia didn't hide behind me. She opened it herself. He looked smaller somehow, his confidence stripped away. Liv, he started, I made mistakes, but we can fix this. She shook her head, tears glistening but her voice steady. No, Nathan, you taught me that money builds walls, not homes. And I'm done living behind yours. He reached out, but she stepped back. Go fix your life. You've taken enough from mine. The door closed, and for the first time since her fall, Olivia didn't collapse. She stood tall. I saw the woman I'd raised finally claim her own power. As the echo of his footsteps faded, Olivia turned to me and smiled faintly. You always said patience is power. I nodded. And now you know why. That night, the house was quiet except for the rain tapping the windows. Olivia sat beside me, holding my hand. Mom, she whispered, thank you for not giving up on me. I squeezed her hand gently. That's what mothers do. We wait, and when the storm clears, we help our children see the sun again. The following weeks were filled with quiet recovery. The chaos Nathan left behind slowly untangled itself. Olivia spent her days rebuilding her reputation, not as the wife of a millionaire, but as a woman who survived betrayal and reclaimed her name. I watched her file documents, attend meetings, and speak with confidence that once seemed impossible. Every signature she made felt like a step toward healing. And every time she looked at me, I could see the shame she carried softening into gratitude. One morning, while we were having breakfast together, she finally spoke what had been weighing on her. Mom, she said softly, I was awful to you. I let him turn me against you, the one person who never left my side. I took a sip of my tea before answering. You were lost, not awful. Love makes us blind sometimes, but pain opens our eyes. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I smiled gently. Forgiveness isn't something you earn, Olivia. It's something you're given when someone still believes in you. For a long moment, we just sat there, letting silence do the healing words couldn't. Then, out of nowhere, she reached across the table and held my hand. I want you to move in with me, she said suddenly. You've done enough for me your whole life. It's time I take care of you. I chuckled softly. I don't need taking care of, sweetheart. Just knowing you found yourself again, that's enough. She smiled, wiping her tears. Then at least let me spoil you for once. In the days that followed, Olivia transformed her home into a sanctuary. Fresh flowers bloomed by the windows, the air smelled of vanilla candles, and for the first time in years, her laughter filled every corner. The world had taken her pride, but it couldn't take her spirit. And when she finally stood before the mirror, She saw not the broken woman Nathan left behind, but the strong, grounded woman she was always meant to be. Sometimes strength isn't about fighting back. It's about surviving long enough to rise again, wiser and unshaken. Months later, life had found its calm again. Olivia often visited me, bringing homemade soup and stories from her new job at a local design firm. The same woman who once bragged about yachts and diamonds now smiled at the small joys: a warm meal, a kind word, a morning walk. One afternoon, we sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky orange and gold. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and for a moment, we were just mother and daughter. No pride, no pain, just peace. Mom, she whispered, I used to think success meant having everything. Now I see it's about being surrounded by the people who never gave up on you. I nodded slowly, the evening breeze brushing my hair. Real wealth isn't in what you own, Olivia. It's in what you give and what you grow through. She smiled, tears shining in her eyes. Then I guess we're both rich. I laughed softly, feeling my heart swell. Richer than we've ever been. As the last bit of sunlight faded, I realized something simple yet profound. Love has a way of circling back, even when it's lost for a while. And sometimes, losing everything is what it takes to finally find what truly matters.